millions and millions and millions of dollars in Costco. Why not anything online? I was in college and I'm like, what am I doing here? It just didn't work for me. It just didn't make sense to me. They would deposit 25 grand a week and I'm like, I'm going to school. I make $50,000-$60,000 a year when I graduate. I just couldn't justify it anymore. I made so much money as an entrepreneur in my 20s that I could never go back to anything else. 26, 27, millions of dollars in the bank. It had never occurred to me, Sam, that I could lose. We went from having everything to having nothing, living in my in-laws' basement over the course of a year. Why are we driving grandma's borrowed minivan? Where's the Escalade? What happened to the Range Rover? Why don't we have a boat anymore? I don't like this house. This is the worst, lowest point of my life. When you've got kids and you've got responsibilities. No, there was no striking gold. There's a business I shouldn't have sold. It was cash flowing. It was making a lot of money, bringing value to a marketplace, not bringing your needs to the marketplace, because no one cares that I need to feed my kids. It's harsh, but it's true. If I can teach myself skills, I learned to do things that were way beyond what I thought I could do. Looked to people who I could see were doing it. I knew that if others were doing it, I could reverse engineer at least a portion of what they were doing. Establishing habits and routine and not letting life happen to me. I would read every night. It was really interesting to feel my confidence grow. I would wake up and I would work out. We were sharing a flip phone. We couldn't afford to go out with friends. Finding a twisted version of enjoyment in the discipline. Me deciding to stop feeling sorry for myself and quit being a victim. You can't wait around for life to happen. You have to go and create. I was looking for the next thing. There was a really great opportunity. It wasn't easy there either. I didn't pay myself. I think I took my first paycheck 3 years in. We didn't know things would go sideways with Costco. We had no idea. How are we doing this? We gamified it. What can we do this month to keep the lights on? People who solve problems are valuable. If you're willing to solve problems and you're willing to put in the brain power to figure stuff out, you're always going to be able to keep your head above water. You're a winner, baby. You just got to figure it out and find your groove. And even though I didn't believe it myself, the biggest blessing that I had was Kim and family and friends that did believe in me, even though I had lost confidence in myself.
Welcome back to the Sam Weinstein Show. I have my buddy on, Deven Davis. He runs Roma Designer Jewelry. They ship designer jewelry from all over the world, make it accessible to the consumer like you instead of these hefty markups. Why don't you tell us a bit more about that, Deven?
It's a long story. I'll give you the quick version. For many, many years, over a decade, we got fat and happy in the Costco Roadshow program. So we actually had no online presence. We would import the jewelry. We had very good manufacturing and design relationships, primarily in Italy. We did a lot, and we still do quite a bit of business in Israel as well, Bali, quite a few different places around the world. And, like any relationship, it's good until it's not. So our relationship with Costco went the way of relationships probably 4 years ago. Prior to that, we thought to ourselves, okay, we're making millions and millions and millions of dollars in Costco. Why not anything online, Genius idea. So we started kind of slow online. We found some bestsellers. It was interesting to see the things that sold well in Costco didn't necessarily sell especially well online. So we kind of had a learning curve there, but as we figured things out and as we went through that transition from kind of brick and mortar, as we were doing shows all over the country, we did about 500 shows a year inside of Costco warehouses around the country. Wow. We love the online direct to consumer model. For us, it's a lot less overhead, a lot fewer employees. And allows us some capacity to be nimble. We can change a lot faster. We can pivot a lot faster as we see things happening within a marketplace. We can ramp up production, slow down production. So in a nutshell, you gave a good overview. Our aim as a company is to provide premium quality jewelry that's not, brass based. It's sterling silver and gold at a fraction of the price that you would normally pay in a traditional jewelry store or brick and mortar setup.
Right, absolutely, and I've seen some sort of the specialty items like the adjustable chain. Is that it's specific to Roma designer jewelry?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting piece for us. Those always sold well for us. It's kind of there's a wow factor right there. So
Right.
again, in any product that we're selling, in any it doesn't matter what vertical you're in. It's nice to have something that you can demonstrate and show people, hey, this is pretty cool, and this is why it's a great solution. So there's
Mm.
a really simple feature benefit sale there. So that's actually been our top of funnel cold market strategy is an adjustable length chain. It is a very nice chain. It's sterling silver or, again, sterling silver and gold. And as we demonstrate, I don't wear a lot of women's chains, but I understand how to sell these now. My
Right.
wife is actually usually the face of the company. I'm not, surprisingly,
Right.
but
Right.
right. So as there's a different bust line as you're wearing a different outfit, you can adjust the length of this chain. There's a gasket there that is really cool and a really cool product that we have. So you can slide it up and down this chain, you can adjust the length. And as we've sold hundreds of thousands, maybe we're over 1 million, well over 1 million actually, of those units moved. It continues to be our top seller. So that's a really cool piece for us and something that we've
Right.
built kind of our online business around, to be honest.
Right. So how was that sort of transition going from the Costco side of things, the retail, because you guys were doing some pretty big volume at Costco, to then saying, hey, how do we take this from brick and mortar to converting everything to online and having the logistics to do that?
Yeah, it was hard. It was
Oh, I'm
hard.
sure.
We sat on a lot of inventory for a long time. So luckily we were able to survive multiple seven figures in inventory sitting in our warehouse for an extended period of time. That was painful though. And we were fortunate enough to be able to navigate that and tighten the belt a little bit. There were difficult. I mean, there were difficulties. We loved our employees. There were salespeople in Costco. We tried to figure out a way to work them into the business. For most of them, that did not pan out, and
Mm.
so there's some painful elements of
Yeah, some
letting
challenges.
employees go, and some of those things that were kind of dark times for us.
Mm-hmm.
On the upside, as I mentioned earlier, we already had in-house fulfillment. We were shipping out receiving and shipping out jewelry to all of our salespeople stationed all over the country every
Right.
week anyway. So we already had a built-in fulfillment team. We did have customer service already in-house. We had a lot of the components that we needed to convert into a direct to consumer model. We had in-house photography team. We had already started, paid media and some of those things in kind of a geolocation around the shows that we were doing inside of Costco warehouses. So it was not a terribly difficult transition from just like a personnel ramp up point of view, but we did have to learn, like I mentioned
Yeah.
already, the best sellers in Costco were not selling well online because you can't touch
Mm-hmm.
and you can't feel and you can't try it
Right.
on.
Right.
So, we had to learn and say, okay, a picture of the product wasn't
Mm-hmm.
good enough. It needed to be on a model. It needed to
Wow
be from
factor. Right.
multiple angles. You need to see, okay, people don't read descriptions, right? So a
Mm-hmm.
16-inch necklace means nothing to most people. So they want to see it on somebody and they're like, oh, that's how long it is. It's this long. Or a 24-inch necklace is this long. So
Right.
people, we learned kind of the hard way that most people visiting the site aren't going to read the product description. They want to see it on a person. They want it. So as we implemented these different things, as we had photo shoots and models now, and we reached out to influencers and built up our ambassador program. We built a repository of images that are kind of shop the look type. We call it, for us internally, it's our shop the look crew, and just trusted ambassadors that we know are going to deliver great shots, so that you can see it on, an older model, a younger model, a fair skinned model, a darker skinned model, whatever the case may be, that would give somebody the comfort level to add to cart and proceed to purchase.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like, it was really, you need to navigate the different experiences from, the Costco version or retail in person is like, I can feel everything, adjustable chain and whatnot, to, hey, I can only see things but reach a wider audience, and be able to show that through either, photos or videos or models, or the personalization method. So it sounds like you guys have been able to do that. I want to go back for a minute to, Deven, and sort of what's your story? Where are you from? How did you get started in all this?
That's a great question. I came into Roma specifically as kind of an observer. I was running a different company. I had a hand sanitizer company at the time. Had an exit there, and my wife had started with Roma. Really is kind of a controller. She's a math major. She's very, she's gorgeous, stunning. I mean, if you see her, she's absolutely beautiful. But she's a geek, right? She just she loves the numbers. She will get lost in spreadsheets for days. That's her comfort zone. So she started working for Roma in that capacity. After a couple of years, she was the COO. And was really running most of the back end operations and coordinating logistics and so on the Costco side. And I'm sitting there watching from bed sometimes at night, her laptop's open and I'm just watching, kind of peeking, and I'm like, those are pretty good numbers. So I already mentioned what kind of volume are you guys doing? Oh, really? Okay. Why nothing online? So I went to our friend who owns Roma, or owned the Costco piece, and ultimately said, okay, look, I don't need a paycheck, but let me build an online component to Roma, and let's be partners. And so we're now partners, but. That's how I became involved. Prior to that, I just have this sickness that is entrepreneurship, right? And I tell my kids, I'm like, look, you don't want to do this. But if you do, there's something to it. It just gets in your blood. And I don't come from an entrepreneurial family. My parents are both very pro education. My dad's very well educated, and master's degree in chemical engineering, had a really great career. I just didn't work for me. It just didn't make sense to me. And so I was in college and I'm like, what am I doing here? In my 20s, I had I don't know if it's good luck or bad luck, but I made so much money as an entrepreneur in my 20s that I could never go back to anything else. We've had ups and downs, and that's why I say, I wouldn't wish entrepreneurship on my worst enemy. I remember I was probably 26, 27, millions of dollars in the bank. It had never occurred to me, Sam, that I could lose. I just hadn't lost yet in life, and I didn't know that was a possibility. Really, I just thought, I'm invincible. I got life figured out, and I really thought I was invincible, and so with that, I went into some business deals. I sold a business that I shouldn't have sold. I moved money here, and we went from having everything to having nothing, and literally being homeless. I'm living in my in-laws' basement all of a sudden over the course of a year, I went from like millions, millions and millions and millions of dollars in
Right.
the bank, and then nothing. So it's been an interesting up and down life. We've had so far more wins than losses, but that's just that's how it is. And if you're not okay with the losses, then it's not the right game. You're going to
Mm-hmm.
lose occasionally, but hopefully, and not everyone has to lose like I lost, but
I
it's
can definitely relate to that. But
yeah, right. I mean, it just is, and I like it. I like the game so much. So I mean, even now, Roma is one of the businesses that I'm working on
right.
currently, and of course there's something else. There's a new startup, and I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'll ask you about that in a minute. But so when you did go all through all these things, you did end up homeless. That at this point, when did you meet Kim at this? Were you with Kim at this point?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, Kim and I met in high school, so we're
Wow.
high school sweethearts. I mean, really like sappy, like prom king and queen, the whole nine yards. I mean, um, so Kim and I met in high school, and I after high school I left on a 2-year church mission. I came home. We got married. And really shortly thereafter started that entrepreneurial journey after we were married, probably within a year. And she always jokes, she's like, yeah, that's a bait and switch. Yeah, I thought I was marrying somebody with a really secure, stable
Uh-huh.
career path, just I, and I don't know what to say. That's just how it turned out for us. But yeah, Kim's an absolute champion. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and really, it's not one or the other of us. It's both. It absolutely has been both of us. We weren't
Yep.
in her parents' basement for a short period of time. It was a long, long time. I mean, this was in a period where the economy was terrible. It was difficult to get a job anyway, and I'd go and I remember, I'd go in for some interviews. I'd had my little resume, and I really never had worked for anyone since high school. So I'd go in and I'd be like, here's what I can do, and here's what I think I can do for your business. And they'd look at me and they'd be like, "You've never worked for anyone." I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
know, but I really think, I've got some valuable assets that I could help your business with.
Right.
And in fact, all of them were like, so you're going to work for us until you find something that you can do on your own, right? And I'm like, I mean, yes, yeah, that's the answer. So I mean, it was a difficult few years. I had a couple of startups from the basement. Was lucky enough to get some funding and some partners that had some money and really just embraced the grind while we were in the basement, and we were able to move out. Like I said, Kim started working for our friends at Roma. They were very that was a godsend for us.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that really has turned into a tremendous blessing for us. So yeah, Kim and I have now been married for 23 years,
Wow.
and yeah, I mean, 4 kids. We had all four there in the basement. I mean, we were driving. We went. I only our oldest daughter is probably old enough to remember like the really good times, But
Uh-huh.
I just remember she was like, why are we driving grandma's borrowed minivan? And it was a piece of garbage, It was
Yep.
embarrassing to drive, and I'm like, she's like, where's the Escalade? What happened to the Range Rover? Why don't we have a boat anymore? I don't like this house. Why don't we have a
Mm-hmm.
movie theater? Why? Because entrepreneurship works like that sometimes, and
Yeah.
that's part of the story too. It really keeps us grounded now. Looking back, I at the time I thought, gosh, this is the worst, lowest point of my life, and truly it was.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got kids and you've got responsibilities and that there's a
Adult.
lot of pressure there, but I just couldn't give up on it, and it's worked out. So,
Yeah.
but Kim absolutely has been a critical part every step along the way.
Yeah. Sounds like she's your, ride or die.
She definitely is. Yes.
And so is this after you went to University of BYU, or is this while you're still?
So I went to school at BYU. I dropped out. I think I've got a semester left if I ever want to finish that up. But yeah, it's
Imagine.
it was definitely it was interesting back in that time period. I was at school at BYU in Provo, Utah. I'm a business finance major. I'm like, okay, look, this is a solid path. I thought it made sense to me. It was interesting to me. Um, Ultimately, it turned into I just couldn't justify it anymore. I was working in this business that I like every Friday they would deposit, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I was like 20 grand a week, 25 grand a week. And I'm like, I'm going to school. I might make 50, $60,000 a year when I graduate. And I'm doing that every couple of weeks right now. Why would I finish school?
Right.
It's easy to say I wish I would have finished. I don't know if I would have finished or not, but I do tell my kids. I do have one daughter who's going to BYU now. We have a son who just committed to play football at Stanford. He'll be going to Stanford
Mm-hmm.
when he gets home from his church mission. So
Oh yeah.
I believe in education. I think it's a good path to figure out what you want to do in life. Do I think it's the end all? No, I don't. It hasn't been for me, but I do think it's a good idea. As an aside, I know that wasn't the question, Sam, but there's my 2 cents on that.
Well, yeah, yeah. I think it depends on what type of education for what type of person. I think especially what if several years ago was a different time period, but I think even now, the world's changed, and I have a very similar story to the whole dropping out stuff, but won't go
Yeah,
too much into that. And so you drop out of college, and then you're in your grandparents' basement, and so what happens next? Do you strike gold, or do you go and work somewhere? What's sort of the happens
yeah.
next?
Ultimately, no, there was no striking gold. We
Mm-hmm.
dug a lot. I mean, we tried. I had a very modest exit with a hand sanitizer company. Had a couple of other little startups that were producing some revenue, but nothing significant.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, Kim carried the family at that point. She hadn't worked for several years while we were having our family. As I mentioned, we had 4 young kids, and
Wow.
she hadn't been working for probably close to 10 years at that point. So
Mm-hmm.
going back for her was what ultimately allowed us to have enough stability that I could go out and say, hey, I don't need a paycheck. And like I said, I did have that little smaller exit. So we had a little bit of money in the bank. We had her income, and it was actually pretty good income at that time. So we were stable.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something to be said for that too. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who are like burn the ships, right? And
Right.
like, look, this has got to work or else nothing. And I think there's some merit to that, but it also puts you in a very vulnerable position. If you can't pay your bills, it's very difficult to have confidence as an entrepreneur. And I
Mm.
I really like the entrepreneurship as a plan B until it absolutely doesn't make any sense, and it has to become your plan A. There's some merit to learning and to observing on somebody else's dime. I mean, I know I
Right.
look at our employees and I'm like, many of them get a really great business education just being inside of our business, just looking at the way that things run, just observing the way that we operate and the things that we've had to learn through experience over the years ourselves. So There's some merit to I think finding that balance between saying I'm gonna burn the ships and be fully committed, and I get that, and I love it, and I respect it, and I've done it
Mm-hmm.
to my benefit and to my detriment, right? So it's
Right.
easy again looking back now and saying, um, yeah, don't there's a business I shouldn't have sold. It was cash flowing. It was making a lot of money, and I sold it. I shouldn't have done
Mm-hmm.
that. So there's some things that you learn along the way, but it's been really interesting just to see that balance in me right now. Even with a new startup now, I'm not selling Roma.
Right.
I thought about it. I thought maybe that would be a good idea. I like the cash flow. I
Right.
like the business that we have. It's we live a really good life, and it allows us to go and then invest and find different opportunities and to kind of spread our net in ways that we probably wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Right. And it sounds like as you said, it was a hand sanitizer company. You sold. Do you think maybe that was the wrong time? You should have waited till COVID, because I know some people hand sanitizer. I mean, it just took off like a
Yeah, I
rocket.
mean, of all the things that we ever missed, yeah, definitely that's at the top of the list. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the foresight to know that there would be a run on hand sanitizer, maybe I wouldn't have sold it. But
Hmm.
as it is, no regrets on that one. That one, I'll keep it the way it was. It's just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what were some of the biggest challenges from the time? Obviously you talked about what happened, but the biggest challenges from the time, you're hustling, you're grinding in your grandparents' basement, to the time when you figure out the Roma and what Kim's doing, and sort of combine that together. What was that journey like?
Yeah, it was. I mean, a lot of it was learning new skills. The skills that I developed in my 20s were um, Salesforce training skills. It was standing
Hmm.
on a stage in front of thousands of people and motivating them and giving them training and teaching them how to sell things. And so I had responsibility for about 20,000 salespeople across the country. And I was good at that. I really liked it. And that's probably another business that I probably should have just stayed in and figured it out. But, again, it's part of the journey. But I didn't have a lot of tangible skills that translated very well. Um, I thought, I'm an intelligent person. I've always done well. I've always learned pretty easily.
Hmm.
Um, I learned how to make websites. I
Right.
started making websites. I started with WordPress websites. I would watch YouTube videos on how to make WordPress websites, and I would sell them to local business owners who didn't have
Hmm.
websites. So I'd sell them for like $1,500, right? I'd set them up, I'd arrange them
Full
and
service. Yep.
customize them, and I could do a few of those a month and bring in some money, and that was kind of my contribution. um, so I learned how to build websites. I learned how to code a little bit.
Mm.
I'm just enough to be dangerous, but I learned how the internet worked a little bit. I learned about
Hmm.
e-commerce. I learned how to sell things in a way that wasn't demonstrative in person, right? That couldn't
Right.
rely on charisma and couldn't rely on my ability to read the room and to interpret what somebody was feeling or thinking or how they were receiving the sales pitch. So it was a different way of thinking for me. It was really, really important for me to learn, and it took me some time. Um, that's really what I did down in the basement, in the
Hmm.
laboratory. I was building websites, teaching myself a little bit, setting up email services for people, trying to just survive in that environment and waiting for an opportunity. Like I said, I tried a few
Mm-hmm.
different ways to make money, and a couple of them were working okay. We'd
Right.
find a product and we'd try and push that product and so on. We didn't have any home runs. There was no like
Mm-hmm.
striking gold for us. It was
Mm-hmm.
really the treasure there was the skill set. Was developing a skill set, and I was really committed to that process. I'm a big believer in bringing value to a marketplace. So one of my early mentors who I never met. So it's funny to say a
Oh,
mentor that
really?
you never met,
Uh-huh.
um, but I hope we all have those. Is a gentleman by the name of Jim Rohn. He's kind of like the grandfather of self-help, in my opinion.
Mm.
He is just tremendous. He's passed away now, but
Oh, I see.
he really talked about the concept of bringing value to a marketplace and not bringing your needs to the marketplace because no one cares
Mm-hmm.
if I was living in my grandparents my in-laws basements. It was Kim's parents' basement.
Right.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares that I need to feed my kids. The marketplace does not care about my needs.
Yep.
So I can't bring my needs to the marketplace and say, hey, I need stuff. I need money. No one cares, turns out. So it's harsh, but it's true. And the
Right.
marketplace doesn't reward our needs, it rewards our value. So I believed in that. I kind of dug in on that and I thought, okay, if I can teach myself skills that translate into value in a marketplace, then I can probably make some money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's proven to be true. Those have translated very well. I learned to do things that were way beyond what I thought I could do. From a technical standpoint, I've learned how to navigate now that I have more resources. I can hire people to do things, but I know who to hire because I know
Right.
how to do it. I know enough to know if they're doing a great job or not. I know how to navigate in this space, and that has proven to be very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what's the saying? Like skills pay the bills. So, I think do you think it's all about like, learning the right skills and then applying that to the right opportunities? And I think the, before everyone went to, college and everything, many hundreds of years ago, there was sort of this apprenticeship. And I think a lot of that has gone away.
Right.
And I think that's, not really talked about a lot, maybe because Rockefellers and whatnot, but won't go into that. But, um, did you have any, during this time, and any mentors or any, guides that stood out and helped you along your path?
Yeah, it's a great question. I had a lot of people that cared a lot about me,
Mm-hmm.
and that was one that I really appreciate. They weren't necessarily business mentors
Mm-hmm.
so much as moral support, and Kim principal among them saying, "You're a winner, baby. You are fine. You just gotta figure it out and find your groove, and you're gonna be just fine again." And that, even though I didn't believe it myself, um, was really important. So I think that as a foundational piece was probably um, the biggest blessing that I had was Kim and family and friends that did believe in me, even though I had lost confidence in myself. Sorry, I almost got teary-eyed there. Um,
No, no, I think it's hard. I think people struggle with, self belief and self, identity and whatnot, and having people that even when you don't believe in yourself, believe in you. I think that's a very foundational key element.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, outside of that, I think I looked to people who I could see were doing it. I knew that if others were doing it, I could probably reverse engineer at least a portion of what they were doing. Maybe I didn't understand the whole thing, but I thought okay, people are having success here. Maybe I can duplicate some of what they're doing. There were a lot of people whose books I read, and ultimately I think I defaulted to what I knew best, which was just uh, establishing habits and routine and not letting life happen to me, but being very intentional about my mindset, about my learning time, about the commitment that I was making. I think I unfortunately see this in a lot of folks that I talk to where like their business plan is crossing fingers and they're like, well, hopefully this particular coin increases in value. I mean, look, that is a business plan. That's a plan, but it's not one that I trust, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, my commitment in the routine was I would read every night to get my brain right. I would read from a book. I wouldn't have my phone out. For most of the time, we were sharing a flip phone, so I didn't have the luxury of
Oh
even
my
having
goodness.
a phone. So Kim and I were sharing a flip phone, so I couldn't cruise social media anyway. But it's just different. It's a different mindset saying, okay, look, I'm going to put my phone down and I'm going to read a chapter before I go to bed. And I would do that, and then I would reread the same chapter every single morning. And my brain, at least the way that I see it, is my brain would take that information overnight. I would digest it. I would cement that, really reinforce that again in the morning. And through that process, it was really interesting to feel my confidence grow, saying, okay, look, my head is right, my confidence is high, I know I'm doing my part. I was very regimented about working out. I would wake up and I would work out. I would get my body right. I would
Mm-hmm.
I would it was funny. I was about to say my diet. I This was a personal thing. I had a hard time eating food that I did not provide. So I
Mm.
went from 220 pounds to 160 pounds living
Ooh.
in my in-laws basement. But I still worked out and I would eat some. I would eat some food.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the regimented process that I would give credit to more than anything else. Just saying to myself, okay, I can do hard things, and if I can do this, and I can do the next hard thing, and I can do the next hard thing, and I can do the next hard thing. Really, just being comfortable in the discomfort was a
Mm-hmm.
big part of the process for me. I did YouTube videos were huge for me. They really were. I tell my kids all the time, like, there's no excuse now. If you don't know how to do something, figure it out. The
Mm-hmm.
information is there. And so, not to go off on a tangent, but I mean, we live in a time in a part of the world where it is easy to become successful. It's just easier not to. So
Mm.
it's a mindset thing.
Right.
It's easy to learn how to build a website. It's just easier not to. It's easy to learn email. It's just
Mm.
easier not to. And so that commitment to the discomfort and doing hard things is what I would say was. I don't have mentors to list, but that process is what I think ultimately was the puzzle pieces of the puzzle
Mm-hmm.
that needed to be put together.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do see Albert Einstein in the background there, but um, but no, it does sound like you had a lot of challenges, and you went through ups and downs, and wouldn't trademark that regimented routine, but that the discipline, I think, was is it fair to say the main thing that got you in the right mindset to pursue further ambitions?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch TV. Like I said, I wasn't on social media. I wasn't going out with friends. We couldn't afford to go out with friends. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was literally no fun, but finding I guess a twisted version of enjoyment in the routine and the discipline is how I got my fun,
Hmm.
and it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was that pivotal moment when, you're going through this, you're going through the hardship and the turmoil, and what was that sort of, pivotal moment? You see Kim doing this. Hey, what's this Roma thing? What's this? How much is this doing? What's how can I help? What was that moment where you saw, hey, maybe this could be something that this is a big opportunity.
Yeah, it's kind of an evolution, and like I said, we were there in the basement for several years, so it wasn't a quick turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
It was an evolution, and I had had some success, so I had some confidence under my belt again at that point, um, and really just looking at it and saying, oh, okay, I've got to do something. There were probably a couple of different pivotal points. The first one, even going back beyond that, was me deciding to stop feeling sorry for myself and quit being a victim.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt bad for myself for quite some time, and I thought, I had everything, and now I have nothing, and that sucks, and I am really sad, and I was a baby about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there was a pivotal point where I decided to quit being a baby and crying about it and to start doing something about it. And I think action creates. You got to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can't wait around for life to happen. You have to go
Right.
and create. So once I got proactive, that was one pivotal turning point. Had some success, had some confidence through that process of building up my internal belief in myself again. And then really, yeah, you're right. I mean, Kim was running Roma. I looked at it, it just made sense. And I was looking for the next thing anyway, right? I was looking
Mm-hmm.
for what am I going to do next? And once I understood that there was a really great opportunity there, and it was really just a question of conversation with partner and then off to the races. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't easy there either.
Right.
I kind of I thought it would be. I was like, look, this is easy. There's proven winners, and we have all this data. Well, the data didn't apply, and it didn't convert as well online as it did in person. But it didn't take too long for us to figure it out, and to I think we did. We struggled the first year. The second year, we did seven figures, and really, it's been a good solid business since.
Mm-hmm. And so your specialty was sort of the knowledge you had around, e-commerce, but also the website and bringing sort of the what Roma was before, which was brick and mortar retail, more older demographic to online with data and code and media and getting it up to upgrading to the new centuries technology and applying
Yeah.
what already worked in person and just bringing that online to more people.
Yeah, really, that's it in a nutshell. It's saying, okay, look, I know how to build a website. We didn't build it on WordPress. We had evolved beyond that, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, putting really my first objective was to bring the in-store experience to a static web page and say, okay, how can we sell the adjustable chain, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it still needs to be demonstrated in order for that light bulb to go off for the consumer and say, "Oh, I get it. I see what this does now." So we invested a little bit of money into creatives. We invested money into different ways to demonstrate how products worked and to bring that, because you can't touch and feel and try on, get as close as we could to that experience with the best sellers, and ultimately to then build a list of buyers around that, and to yeah, a lot of our early buyers weren't even aware that we sold other products other than this adjustable chain, and so then I was like, okay, well, in order for us to grow, we've got to um, have a post-purchase education piece in place, and we've got to let them know about the quality and the variety of the offerings that we have. And so increasing customer lifetime value through post-purchase education, indoctrination, and
Mm.
branding um, became very important and has been super lucrative for us as well. Um, we do make money on the front end. We're fortunate enough to be able to operate in the
Wow.
black on the front end in acquisition, but we do. But we also clean house on the back end, and that's been a really nice skill set that I've developed, even as part of Roma. So
Hmm.
you never stop learning and growing. But yeah, that was my contribution is to say, okay, look, let's bring this experience that we've got in these Costco locations and put it into an online setting and see what we can do with it.
Hmm. And so how did really the conversation really start? Was it just like, hey, hey, I'm Devin. I think we have an opportunity here. I'm this e-commerce guru, or was it sort of like, hey, I'll help you guys out, test, see what works, and if something does, then we'll go from there. Or
Yeah,
how?
yeah, well, I mean, I knew my partner. Um, we're friends, so
Mm.
so it wasn't an introduce myself to him. It was like, hey, I see this opportunity. What do you think about it?
Right.
And there's really nothing to lose. He was like, great, you're gonna work for free, and I already have the jewelry, so there's nothing to lose.
Hmm.
So luckily, it worked out well. Yeah.
Got it. So you had that original relationship first, provided value, proved your value, and then had further conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pay myself from Roma for probably, I mean, I think I took my first paycheck 3 years in
Wow.
um, from Roma, and we had done millions of dollars in sales at that point.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, it's time. Let's take a paycheck. But there was a lot of reinvestment in the business. And I guess that's kind of my mindset as well, is like, I like cash flow lifestyle businesses, but I also thought, here's an opportunity to build something a little bit bigger, and ultimately something that can sustain us long term. And I'm glad I did it that way. Looking back in retrospect, we didn't know that things would go sideways with Costco.
Mm.
We had no idea. And so had we not invested heavily back into the business in those initial couple of years, I probably would have been it would have been a much different situation, and I'd be doing something else right now probably.
Right. So it's sort of looking for the right opportunity vehicle with the lifestyle and jewelry and everything, but also more importantly looking for the right relationships and the right partners to be able to do that with.
For sure. I mean, I've had great partners. I've had mediocre partners. I've had terrible partners in a lot of businesses over the years, and life's easier with a good partner.
Hmm.
And that's true. It's true in relationships. It's true in business. It's true in all aspects of life.
Absolutely. And speaking of partners, you and Kim go hand in hand. And so, can you explain what is sort of the difference between Kim's role in the business as far as the operations and your role as far as e-commerce and branding and whatnot?
Yeah, it really is just that. If Kim is incredibly talented, like I said, with projections, with the numbers, and look, I like the numbers too. I like to know what my numbers are, and anyone that's involved in marketing needs to know what their numbers are, or else they're going to get eaten alive. But she does an incredible job with sales projections. She does an incredible job taking a pulse on the market and kind of anticipating and hedging against things that may or may not go well for us as a business. Everything, and there's a lot of considerations in our business. There's everything from the price of precious metals, silver and gold, to, um, you know, Italy was locked down during the
Mm.
pandemic, and our production facilities couldn't operate, and that presented a new set of challenges. So Kim's in charge of everything. That that's a funny question because it's evolving right now, Sam. Kim is in charge
Oh.
of what Kim wants to be in charge of right now, which is less and less every day. She's enjoying kind of a time where the business is solid enough that her time commitment can be a little less than it once was. She's still
Mhm.
very involved. We have our fulfillment warehouse and our customer service team here. She's a former librarian too, so yeah,
Wow.
we just reorganized our warehouse, and she put in her librarian skills there, and
Mm.
redid all of our SKUs and all
Yep.
sorts of crazy stuff. That's stuff she loves to do anyway. So she's really she does a lot of the hiring as we bring on new staff. She does a lot of those things. The back end stuff, the
Mhm.
stuff that really doesn't have a lot of glory. She deals with the books and all that kind of stuff. My role is really just to keep the marketing machine moving, to tell the brand story, to evolve the
Mhm.
brand story, to make sure that we're um, in a position where people understand why they want to buy from Roma. And
Right.
our ambitions with this particular brand aren't grandiose. To be honest, they're to be a solid middle of the road player, and we're not going to go raise. I still have a silent partner, and so we're not going to go raise money to expand the business. We've decided that we're content with how this business is operating, and we've always operated on cash, and that's been a struggle at times,
Mhm.
but it's also been one that's been incredible. We don't have any debt, and I
Yeah.
lay my head on my pillow at night and feel pretty darn good about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people they look at these big zombie companies like as I like to call them like Uber and whatnot, and they see, oh, they're doing this much revenue or this much market cap, whatever. But at the end of the day, A, they're not profitable, and B, I think it is much more rewarding to have not just a profitable business, but something that is more transparent and more you can look at it and say, I did that, we did that, instead of
Yeah.
something far off in the distance. um, and it does sound like you and Kim you definitely go hand in hand in terms of roles, and she's more of the analytical, internal sort of side, keeping the machine in order and squeaking it clean, and you're more like keeping the machine moving. And
Yeah.
I think that's definitely great to have, and you guys go hand in hand. And you were talking about earlier about some of the challenges you faced during the pandemic. The only thing I remember, because I was in a group with you in 2020, and the only thing I remember is I went in and Deven had hair, and I went out and Deven didn't have hair. So something must have changed between then and there.
Uh, Yeah, who knows if it was completely just the stress of COVID or not. I actually barely remember having hair, but yeah, you're right. I did have some thinning hair at the time, and that's just the time of life too. I think that was nature anyway. But you're right. I mean, it there were I mean, gosh, as we navigated. Um, Parting ways with Costco, and then pandemic right on the heels of that. Whew. Um, those were some crazy times, man. Those were some crazy times, and there were months where I was like, "How are we doing this?
Hmm.
What are we gonna do?" And really, ultimately, it became we gamified it to some degree. I was like, okay, what can we do this month to keep the lights on? What
Right.
What kind of promotion can we run? What can we do so that we can afford to keep everybody fed and keep the business afloat? So I'm happy to be done. Yeah, that's probably uh, a contributor to some hair loss, but um, it's really interesting as we have kind of navigated that and come out the other side. But challenges are always around. I mean, we've got a soft economy right now. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking at consumer confidence and saying, okay, what are people still buying? What are they buying? Are they buying heavily discounted? Yeah, they are. People are still going to buy. They don't want to pay full price right now, and that may
Right.
change, and it will change. I mean, there's always cycles, but again, that's the life of entrepreneurship. There's no set it and forget it. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be something that needs to be figured out. And I've
Mm-hmm.
always been a big advocate as well. I tell our team and I tell the people that I work with, regardless of in Roma or any other business that I'm working in right now, that people who solve problems are valuable. If
Yep.
you're willing to solve problems and you're willing to put in the brain power to figure stuff out, you're always going to be able to keep your head above water. And that's proven to be true in my life. I think uh, solving problems is ultimately what it is. Anticipating, trying to anticipate as well as we can, and then dealing with what we didn't anticipate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the market you guys are in, like the luxury market, it's definitely important to navigate, the micro and the macro economies, and to see
Yeah.
where customers are at and what their buying habits are, and whatnot. And I think it's good to know who your customers are. So can you explain, like, who is the ideal Roma designer jewelry customer?
Yeah, we're kind of solidly in a fairly narrow segment, to be honest. We try to expand that and we work really hard to, but
Mm-hmm.
our primary buyer is going to be an affluent, upper middle class, female.
Mm-hmm.
That's who buys from us. Somebody who's wanting to upgrade their jewelry from fast fashion and cheap metals to something a little bit nicer and something a little more timeless and something that is going to last more than a few months. So we're pushing into younger demographics now as we're seeing some traction with people who are like, you know what, I do want to build a more sustainable jewelry collection, for example,
Mm.
that's not just churning all the time. I want some timeless pieces in my jewelry collection. So we're trying to lead that way with younger influencers and bringing in people who have credibility in that space to say this is why I like Roma's offering because it does last and I've had it for a year, I've had it for 2 years, or it doesn't tarnish and it's not going to turn my skin green. So I think there's some merit in having those conversations with individuals who are younger and as we look at that, and we've made tremendous inroads actually over the last year or two. When we exited Costco, I would say our customer was very much an older woman,
Mm.
like 50s 60s, and we went from uh, they still love the jewelry to middle aged, and then really got a foothold there, and now breaking into a younger demographic as well.
Right, so it almost sounds like you guys needed to either pivot or expand the target customer from just Costco to the rest of the world, and really nailing in that whether it's still the older demographic or catering to the younger demographic, the newer demographic, but still hone in on those same selling points and those same value propositions. And
Yep.
so, I remember, I think you showed me your specialty is really, or one of your specialties is the email, behind the Roma designer jewelry. You show me all these email I think you showed me one time this 2,000-page email thing, and there's something about a Yeti and Ice Age. I'm like, what the heck is this guy going on about? And it worked, and I'm like, what the heck? And so what do you believe? Most e-commerce stores, most brand owners or business owners are doing wrong with email, and what do you think? What do you say to the people that say that email's now dead or it doesn't work anymore?
Email's been dead for a long time, surprisingly. If you listen to what everyone says, turns out we've made millions of dollars with email, even post-mortem. I mean, if email's been dead, then I guess we're trying to resuscitate it. But I think more important than email in and of itself is brand voice and having an authentic connection with customers. So I failed to mention Kim's reluctant role in Roma is also as the face and the voice of Roma designer jewelry. So as I mentioned, she's much prettier and a better fit for that than I am. So
Just a little bit.
yeah, right. I mean, yeah, you met Kim. So I think email, yes, email works because we write from Kim's voice. Our advertising comes from Kim speaking directly into the camera in the founder voice. People who are buying from us because they feel like they have a relationship with Kim, and they feel like she's their friend, and she makes recommendations as a friend via email. She says, hey, we just got back from Hawaii. We took our kids last week, and she, when I say she, I mean me as Kim, is writing and saying, hey, look, these are the pieces I'm going to wear on the beach. We took a bunch of pictures of anklets, of her wearing anklets on the beach that we're going to launch next week. And she'll be telling people about, her favorite travel anklets and travel jewelry in general, and talking about the things that she likes. And so there's some connection that bigger brands don't do this. And I think a lot of people with smaller businesses, smaller brands, are trying to just copy what they see these gargantuan businesses doing, and it's apples and oranges. It's not the same. People don't care about your brand, unfortunately, and they don't even necessarily think it's that cool unless they know you and there's some reason to like you. And people will do business with someone that they know, someone that they like, and someone that they trust. And email is a methodology, it's a delivery mechanism for creating that relationship where they know you, they like you, and they trust you. So, you've got to do it well. I think a lot of people just never put the time. And it goes back to, like, it's easy enough to do it. It's just easier not to, right? It's easier to turn on Netflix at night than write another email in the email flow. It's easier to spend 6 or 7. I mean, I invite people to look at the time that they spend their screen time and be honest with yourself. Yep. And if you're 8 hours a day on TikTok, chances are your business is suffering as a result of that. Now, I go do your market research and you figure out what the trends are. I get it. I love it. You got to do that too. But you've got to be able to separate and move away from that. And so outside of email, outside of SMS, outside of, we do a lot of different things to produce sales. But I think brand voice is kind of the heart and soul of that, and connecting with customers on a level that they feel like they know who you are and what you're about.
Absolutely right, and I think email is more just a mechanism for building that relationship and building that know, like, and trust factor. And I think that's what brand is just relationships and building upon different relationships. And if you don't do that and you don't you skip on whatever have you, and you're not building those relationships, the relationships will suffer and the brand will as a whole. And so I think that's, really important to have, and a successful business is a uh, not just, a brand, but the relationships with each customer as well, and navigating, that journey. And so,
Right.
I want to navigate now to, what does a day in the life look for, Devin? I know you mentioned you just went to Hawaii, but on a typical day, what does that look like?
Oh man. Currently it's very different than it has been in the past. Currently I wake up um 7. We have a family devotional at 7:05 every morning. Send the kids off to school with some scripture and prayer. We do, just some really simple stuff there in the morning. Um, Go to the gym, and when I'm done with the gym, I that's actually I act I respond to several emails before I go to the gym. I put some fires out. If there's any fires, I look for those.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then I look, and I'm evaluating. I'll look at my calendar while I'm at the gym. I'll see what I've got, and then once I get home, it's really just prioritizing for that day. That usually starts the night before. I know what I'm doing. I know what my priorities are for the next day. Um, Spend some time. I listen to Jim Rohn actually a lot at the gym. I'm not always just anywhere where I can be listening and learning. Even in the background, I'm listening and learning.
Mm-hmm.
I get back, and I put my marketing together for the day. So really, I wish I could say that I'm months and months ahead in my plan, but I'm not. I'm deciding day to day what I'm gonna send out in my email that night and what promotions are gonna be. I have a rough idea, but a lot of the times it's what worked this time last year, and I'm recycling a lot of that content. You put a couple few years in, and you can do that, right? If we had a St. Patrick's Day sale that worked last year, I'm gonna run the same thing again this year, and I'm gonna ramp it up the very same way. If I had, we just came off of a sale period that we manufactured a holiday, and we did really well with that again this year. So I'm recycling as far as Rome is concerned. I'm recycling a lot of that, and really up trying to up level our team internally, making sure that we're growing and we're progressing. I've got another startup that is taking a fair amount of my time right now, so that is also I'm back in 18 hours a day mode. It's
Oh.
I did take a vacation, but I was working on vacation, and so that the other business is taking a lot of time because it's a heavy lift. It's
Mm-hmm.
not glamorous. I'm not working or sitting on a beach all day. I will take a week and sit on a beach and work while I'm there. But yeah, man. I mean, a typical day, if a good day for me is I get a workout in, I get some scripture in, I spend some time with my family in the evening, support my kids, go to their things, and ultimately, I'm usually able to eat dinner with the family and spend time a little bit in the evening with them, and then I'll work a couple more hours or a few more hours at night, and do the same thing again tomorrow.
Oh, sounds like a very full day. And
That's a very full day.
yeah, and so, you and Kim are, some of the only people I know that, got married very young. And do you believe you need to be like, religious to get married young, or did you, or how did because you don't see that often, getting married young. Do you think there's, what do you think there's the need, the needs to be?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. I think everybody's situation and circumstances got to be unique for them. For us, man, I'm just a traditionalist, and I knew that I loved Kim, and Kim loved me, And when you know that, and you know that you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody, you get married.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's my opinion. So, I don't think that it's purely a religious decision for us. That certainly played a role in the decision. But I think there's something to being all in with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And Kim, to her credit, as I've already said, had if she was gonna bail, I think she would have done it by now. I think I've put her in some very difficult situations financially, emotionally, and she is truly just a champion. So I mean, for me, I don't know. I will say, like, getting married young, would I do it again? Absolutely. Would we have kids as quickly as we did? Probably not. Probably not. I mean, we had 4 kids by the time we were like 25, I think, and 26 maybe, and
Mm-hmm.
that is full on nuts.
Mm-hmm.
It's great now. I mean, everybody's fantastic. Everybody's old enough to, like, this vacation was just a blast. They're all just about anywhere from 18 to 24 months apart, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a blast. So I wouldn't change it now at the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I wouldn't recommend it either
Right.
necessarily. I like figure it out. Like, that's the advice we give our kids. Like, all right, hey, do what you need to do, but just make sure you got your life a little bit figured out, maybe
Right.
before you start bringing other lives into it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
And and it's about finding that right person.
Yeah, I mean, look, I couldn't. I don't know what I'd be without Kim. I really don't. I don't know where I'd be. I don't know who I'd be. That for me, there was really there's not a lot other. There's nothing else to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was absolutely the right decision. I didn't need to go figure anything else out. I knew what I wanted, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I see you post sometimes. Your son is a very talented football player, and I see he's started this what is it, Positive Clothing PS TV clothing, which seems
Yeah,
pretty cool.
positive goods. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
how's
that
that
was
been?
actually like, yeah, so he's it's been really interesting. Just a quick story on that. He's a really good football player. He's a really smart kid. And even before football was on his radar, Stanford was his dream school. Academically, that's where he wanted to go. For whatever reason, he just had it in his brain. He started high school as a sixth grader, and just was kind of like a freak. We call him a freak. He's a freak. And he just so happened to grow into a big, strong football playing kid as well. So for him to be able to play football and go to school at Stanford is a dream come true. As we went through the recruiting process with him, we went to every school. We went to tons of schools who were recruiting him. We go to Oregon. They've got and people may not be familiar with this, but prior to recent times, college players could not make money on their name, image, likeness, right? So they've got these
Right.
name, image, likeness deals now where kids are making a lot of money. And Carter
Mm-hmm.
kind of got a taste for this, and he's like, well, if I had my own brand, I could make even more money, and this might be a good opportunity. And so um, as we went to these different schools, USC, like I said, Oregon, and all over the place, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And we thought of this concept during COVID when it was just a really negative time in general. That hasn't
Mm-hmm.
changed. There's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot
Yep.
of negativity in the world. And so as a family, we kind of came up with this positive brand, and we just thought that might be a cool project for us to work on during COVID. It didn't go very far because Kim and I wanted the kids to take the lead with it, and we weren't going to drive it. They were going to drive it, and they didn't. So
Mm-hmm.
recently, Carter has decided that it would be a good thing for him to do, and he's taken the reins on that. And really, it's ultimately about positive messages. It's
Mm-hmm.
about sharing positive feelings and encouraging each other, and choosing intentionally to be positive versus having a negative outlook. And so
Right.
he's got some grassroots success here locally. We're partners on that with him, and so it's probably time. He's got some winners, and it's time to start to throw some ad spend behind a couple of those designs, and to continue to build them. In fact, he's over there meeting with our fulfillment friends right now as we speak. He just called me, and I'm sure that's what he's excited to tell me the new deal he negotiated. So I sent him
Oh.
over to do it. I'm not doing it. He's an adult. He can do it now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, great brand, great potential there. It's really kind of fun for our family to work on it. As we were in Hawaii, we were taking product photos, and we were working on different angles and different messages, and our younger kids are running the social media. Carter's doing
Mm-hmm.
some of most of the content creation, and yeah, it's a fun project. Yeah. Positive goods. I don't know. It'll be positive something. We're playing with a couple of different domain names right now, but that's where it is for now.
Yeah, I mean, it's some like positive club or something. But yeah, I see him doing like the UGC in school, and having the teachers try on the t-shirts and whatnot, and the designs, and it's very very cool to see. Especially that you mentioned he's doing all the work, and not sort of Devin's the face, right, writing emails behind it. He's the one
Yeah.
doing everything, and so how has it been teaching the entrepreneurship to Carter, and how do you think he's really reflected that with the sport of business with the sport of football?
Yeah, it's really it's been difficult to balance a lot of that, but that's life, right? That's he's still in high school. He's committed to Stanford, but he's not there yet. He's still in high school, and so he's got a full class load. He's still got 5 or 6 AP classes this year with a heavy workload, and still demands of keeping working out a couple hours a day and trying to balance all of this. So it's been kind of cool though to talk about the process. And I think, as much as I say don't be an entrepreneur to my kids, I love the lessons of entrepreneurship. You know this, Sam. You're an incredible young business owner yourself, and just the perfect example, really, of somebody who got in and learned and went after the knowledge and
Mm-hmm.
applied it, and so we hope that that's the hope. Like, can you look at a profit and loss statement? Can you figure out if you're
Right.
making money or not? Can you figure out whether or not you can really pull this off, or do you need to pivot, or what do you need to do differently? And there's a lot to be said for that struggle and figuring things out. So I'm excited to watch it unfold, and of course I'll help where or advise where needed. But I do enjoy. Sounds wrong, but I enjoy watching my kids struggle. I think it's good for them. So yeah,
Well, yeah, no, I think yeah, it's not struggle like torture techniques, but it's more like you're coaching, acting as a
yeah,
business entrepreneur coach, as a football coach would,
right,
for him, and
right,
so I think that's
right.
really cool to see, especially at such a young age, to learn that entrepreneurship, and have that guide available to him. And so you mentioned this new startup, and you've been working on that, and your trip to Hawaii and whatnot. Can you tell us about that? I saw something about like home goods or whatnot.
Yeah, so I mean, there's Roma Positive is kind of the family brand. Ivy House is my primary new startup, um, and it's a completely different animal. It is in a quick version. There is a huge opportunity in streamlining home ownership experiences and everything surrounding the home. In my 20s, I was involved. I didn't go into that a lot, but in customer acquisition for utility companies primarily. So gas, electricity, phone service, and so on and so forth. Some of my friends from back in that period who have remained very good friends approached me probably a year and a half ago and said, "Hey, look, we want you to be involved in this. This is what we're doing." They've got an incredible advisory board put together, and I thought initially I would just come in and consult, and
Mm-hmm.
within a little bit of time. It, Now I'm running the company. So
Wow.
it's crazy. This is not a print on demand startup situation. We are raising capital. We are. It's a completely different game, and the stakes are high, which I like. It's an interesting time to be involved in the home space. Um, with what we're doing, but the response as we've taken this concept out, and I won't spill too much here because we're still in pre-launch, but
Mm-hmm.
as we've taken this concept out to some of the biggest home influencers, for example, people with TV shows, I can't say names, but
Right.
you think the biggest people from an influencer standpoint in the home space, you think the biggest players in the mortgage and real estate agent space, you think marrying all of these concepts and basically providing individuals a place where they can look for a home. If they're homeowners, if they're existing homeowners, they can tap into resources that would allow them to improve the value of their home in a down market. They can repair their credit. They can do whatever
Mm.
they need to do. And again, that's a really vague description, and I will keep it that way because we are in the pre-launch phase, and that's just how it is. But um, the response has been incredible as
Right.
we've looked at future casting and looking at what's coming down the road. Positioning right now in the down economy. At first, I was like, crap, this
Mm.
is terrible timing. But it's not. It's all about how you look at it and approach it, and it's actually incredible timing as we get a foothold in a down market. We're
Mm.
really excited about the upside as we come out of that market in the future, um, and what that means. So, as much as I love jewelry, this is a much more exciting endeavor for me. I'm working with friends who are more like brothers than business partners, and we are having a blast.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah. It sounds like, some sort of SaaS, home business where you're connecting, homeowners with home professionals or something like that. And you got the right partners to do it. So, I think
Right.
it's definitely should be a good challenge, especially in, I think they say the best time to start a company is in a, downturn,
Yes.
especially in the SaaS world. So, I'll definitely keep an eye on it and see what happens. But,
Yeah.
you know, I think final question, if you could go back to when maybe you're in your in-laws house, or you're 20 years old, and you could take a time machine and tell that 20-year-old Devin one piece of advice, one thing, what would that be?
It's a great question. Um, I think ultimately, for me, the most important indicator of success has been self-belief and the self-work. So if I were to go back, I would say stay focused on always improving yourself and bringing that value to the marketplace. Be focused on what you can control and the things that are within your power to influence each and every day. And ultimately, that a lot of that is just what's happening between the ears. It's the things that it's the way that you treat people. It's the relationships that you develop. It's the network that you build because you're good to people and you do it the right way. It's a lot of those things that in the law of the harvest, it takes a while to plant those seeds and to harvest that effort. But ultimately, looking back, it has always paid off. Not necessarily in the time frame that I wanted it to always, but doing it the right way, focusing on being good to people, focusing on being the best version of yourself that you can be, has been a good approach for life. And you win big, you lose big. It ultimately doesn't matter if you're doing it the right way and you're focused on yourself and your growth. I've been happy at every step along the way. Been happy in the in-laws basement. Not always, but I found happiness in the in-laws basement. I found happiness out of it. I found happiness before it and after it. So I think those would be the things that I would recommend to 20-year-old Deven. Same recommendation to 27, 28-year-old Deven that's living in the basement and continues to be true today.
Wow, well, thank you for your time, Deven, and where can people find you?
Yeah, it's really easy to find me currently at ivyhouse.io. That's where you can find me right now. You can write to me at romadesignerjewelry.com as well, and I'm pretty active on Twitter as well. So if you want to look at the Deven Davis, you can find me on Twitter as well.
Thanks, Deven.
Thank you, Sam. Always a pleasure, my friend.